Hey there. Previously, I talked about the introduction, how to write a complete one with a good hook and a thesis statement. Then I showed you tips and tricks how to write your body paragraphs. This is video number 6. We're talking about the conclusion today. And the objective of the video is to finish your opinion text by leaving the reader wanting more. First thing I want to do is to explain the Criterion conclusion in the ministry rubric. 5 points out of 50 are allocated for the conclusion. So how do you get those 5 points? Well, it means if you get an A, that you summarize the topic and the position taken, but on top of that, you have a lasting impression. That means your reader wants more. It makes the reader think at the end. That's very good. You get a B, so we're talking about 4 out of 5. If you still summarize the topic, you summarize the position taken, that's good, that's needed. But the impact is not as good. You finish strong, but not as strong as an A. You get a C, so we're talking about 3 out of 5. Well, the first point is the same. You need to summarize the topic and the position taken. That doesn't change, you need it. But you finish a little clumsy or you're too predictable. The reader is just like, okay. And then the D and the E. So we're talking about 2 and 0. Well, if you bring in a new argument in your conclusion, that's not good. If you contradict yourself in the conclusion, that's not good. If you don't write a conclusion, that's not good either. All right, so the conclusion has 2 main parts. You have a summary of your arguments and a final thought leaving a lasting impression. A summary of your arguments, how do you do that? Well, in 1 or 2 sentences, your job is to rephrase your 2 strong arguments, or maybe you have 3 arguments inside your text. And a good trick to rephrase your argument is to look at your introduction, at your thesis statement, and to reformulate it at the beginning of your conclusion. Don't forget, don't copy-paste your thesis statement. Reformulate it to do a summary. After that, a final thought leaving a lasting impression. This is your final sentence. It's very strong, and in this video I will show you 4 techniques to leave a lasting impression on it. There are many ways to write a final thought. The first technique I want to show you today is a warning or an instruction. What is that? Well, in your final sentence, you make the reader realize that there is a problem with the situation. You're warning them. In the final booklet, the final evaluation, the topic is never known in advance. So I'm proposing different topics today, and the first one is, will forcing children to read help literacy? So if you want to give a warning on this situation, or an instruction, well, I chose the warning, you could write a conclusion like this. It could sound like that. Making sure students have access to a variety of good books and the time to read and talk about them is a more effective way to improve reading skills. You see, this part, it's the summary of your arguments. It's the first part of your conclusion. You always need that. So this is a complete conclusion. But in the other techniques, I will not focus on that. I just wanted to give you an example. Your warning in this situation. Forcing students to read specific book will simply kill their desire to read more on their own. You're using strong vocabulary and you make the reader realize there is a problem with the situation. The second technique I want to show you today is a shocking question. But before I show you this, don't finish your text with a boring question or a dull question like, and you, what do you think? Don't finish like that. Your final question should be shocking, directly on the topic. So let's see. If we look at a topic like that, will the aging population affect the global economy? Well, you could have a shocking question like this. Oh, before I focus on this, don't forget, before your final thought, you need a summary of your arguments. I did not put it there, but don't forget about it. Your shocking question should be, or could be, What will happen to young people's retirement plans? This is a good question. It's a good shocking question because your targeted audience is teenagers and young adults. So talking about their future money will keep them thinking. What is a recommendation? Is it a possible action or solution to a problem? An obligation to solve a problem? Or a multiple choice? If you answered a possible action or solution to a problem, you are correct. Another way to write your final thought is to use a recommendation. So a recommendation is providing a possible action or a solution to a problem, and obviously to the topic provided at the beginning of your evaluation. So today, the topic that I'm suggesting. Are mainstream ads filled with too many stereotypes? Well, you could finish your text with a recommendation for this. Consumers have a role to play in stopping companies from conveying such stereotypes. Boycott them. This is a recommendation. You're telling your reader there is a solution, there's a possible action for the future. But watch out. When you use the recommendation to finish your text, don't justify it. Don't bring a new argument into your conclusion. You will fail. The last technique I want to show you today is the powerful statement. This technique can be compared to the shocking question that I talked about earlier. But instead of asking a question, you're stating something very powerful, shocking, maybe intense, to force reflection. Let's say the topic is animal cruelty as punishable as human cruelty? Well, your powerful statement at the end could be like this. Animals are not stuffed toys. They deserve to be treated with respect like all living creatures. Don't justify it. Don't bring in new arguments. Just leave a shocking statement at the end. So if we recap the conclusion, you need two main parts. First part, you need your summary of your arguments. And the second part that we really talked about in this video, you need a final thought. So use one of the techniques that I just showed you. And don't forget, don't bring in new arguments into your conclusion. That's not good. And be sure to watch part 7 of the series to learn more about the language repertoire.